Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about NOT gates. Now in the previous video we discussed about gates in general and what they are and how they're used and why we need gates. So for this first video we're going to go through the NOT gate, and the reason why I've chosen the NOT gate over the other two gates is because the NOT gate is the simplest one to understand. So basically when you think of a NOT gate, just think of a process of doing the exact opposite of whatever the input is. So if I give you an example, if you take in a binary number, so a 1 or a 0, once that number is passed into a NOT gate, it will give the opposite as the output. So if we keep in mind from our previous video, we have an input. So our input will be 1 or 0, a binary number. Then after we've got our input, we'll have a process, and our process will just be a function that will manipulate our input in some way. And once our NOT gate has finished its function, it'll give us an output. And our output will be either a 1 or a 0, depending on what our input is. Now, when we get a circuit or a logical circuit, this will be made up of many different types of gates. So there could be a NOT gate, along with an AND gate and an OR gate, or there could be a circuit that has multiple NOT gates and multiple AND gates. So it's quite important that we're able to familiarize ourselves with what these different types of gates look like. Now I know I went through it briefly in the previous video, but I'm just going to draw a diagram of what a NOT gate looks like. So this is what a NOT gate looks like. We have our input here represented by this line, and then this triangle with the circle, and then this triangle with the circle on top of it represents our NOT gate, and this line here represents our output. Now just keep in mind, with this type of gate, the NOT gate has only one input and one output. In some of the other gates that we'll be discussing, our AND gate and our OR gate, we can have multiple inputs. We'll still have one single output, but we can have multiple inputs. So for our demonstration videos, we'll be using two inputs for our OR gates and our AND gates. Now keep in mind, you can have more than two inputs for your OR gate and your AND gate, but for our NOT gate here, we're just using one input. So the next thing I want to introduce you to is the idea of a truth table. So a truth table is a simple table that you can draw with all the possible inputs for your NOT gate and the corresponding outputs or the results of them inputs. So I'll draw it out now and you'll be able to see. So you can see I've drawn out my truth table here. We have two values, we have an A and we have a B. A in this case represents our input and B represents our output. So as I said, a NOT gate takes in one value, so the only two possible values it could intake would be either 0 or 1. And when it takes in these values, it spits out the opposite. So the opposite of 0 is 1 and the opposite of 1 is 0. Now this might seem pretty simple. In the coming videos when we learn about OR gates and AND gates, they'll be a little bit more complex, but this video was just a nice introduction to the first type of logic gate that we use, and it also introduces us to the idea of our truth tables and our different symbols that we use to represent our gates.